Well, hi everyone. My name is Tyler Ramsbey. I'm curious, does anyone remember at AAR when some dude was yelling at you not to buy Chromebooks? Does anyone remember that? All right, so that was me. So you may remember me from that. So if you're having deja vu, feeling like I've spoken to you before, it's because I probably have, but it was all about Chromebooks. Now, what I get to talk to you guys about, I made my entire PowerPoint in Kali Linux because I figured that's what hackers do, right? So if you're wondering what that is, it's all just Linux terminal type stuff. My job is I hack companies for a living. So like every single day, I have a different website, different company that I hack. I do everything criminals do. The difference is I get life insurance and I'm not yet in jail. So it's a really cool career. So I want to talk to you guys today about how to become a penetration tester. Now, I'm just curious, how many of you are interested in that? Like when you got into IT, you thought, I want to hack stuff. Anyone have a genuine interest in that? Just by a show of hands, so I kind of know the audience. All right, cool. Here's the problem I had. I also was interested in it, but I didn't know anyone who actually did it. So once again, by a show of hands, does anyone know like a legit penetration tester locally? Yes? Where do they work at? Do you know? That's awesome. Cool. So one person. You know someone?
Yeah, one of my buddies, he's going to be a program engineer at Iowa State, and he does pen testing.
Sweet. Does he like it?
Yeah, he loves it. He's trying to get me into it.
Well, I'm going to get you into it as well. No, that's awesome. So my issue when I wanted to do pen testing is I didn't know anyone. Like what I've noticed in Sioux Falls, you can't just like walk into a pen testing firm and ask questions because they don't exist right in South Dakota. I think someone might correct me if I'm wrong. I think DSU has like a pen testing element where they do pen tests for government agencies. Does anyone know? I think they have something like that. But as far as I know, they're the only like local group that does any type of pen testing. So it was something I wanted to do. Who else? Are they?
Yeah.
Crazy. That's fascinating. Is it just government agencies? Do they do businesses? Interesting. Fascinating stuff. So I didn't. Yeah, so they're a huge one. Black Hills Information Security. I mean, they're huge in the pen testing field in general. The classes they do, the training they do, they're a big name to pay attention to. I work for a company called Rhino Security Labs in Seattle. As you can tell, I don't live in Seattle. A little bit about me as a who am I? I'm local. I grew up in Pipestone, Minnesota. If you guys have ever been to Pipestone, I played for the Pipestone Arrows. I did basketball, football, and we were terrible. So if you ever played our team, like back in 2012 when I was on it, you beat us because I sucked at it, and I think everybody on the team was terrible at it. But I'm from Pipestone, and I live right now in Garrettson, South Dakota, so just like 30 minutes from here, and I actually went to school here at Southeast Tech. The thing is, I didn't go for IT, so I came to Southeast Tech and graduated in 2013 in the business administration program. Nothing with IT stuff. So my journey is I've always been interested in IT in general and computers in general. When I was a kid, there's this really cool game called RuneScape. Anyone play it? All right, anyone actually play RuneScape now? It's still a popular game. No one wants to admit it? All right, it's still a fun game. I don't play it either. But one of the first games I ever played was RuneScape. Now, I think it's called RuneScape Classic now, but when I played it, it was just RuneScape. This is what it looked like. This is the early 2000s. I was like 10, 11 years old. And this introduced me to my first like social engineering hacking stuff as a kid. So don't blame me. I was a kid. I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. I did not come up with this scam or social engineering. I just did it. But we used to tell people, me and a few friends would tell people, look, RuneScape implemented this new thing that if you type your password, it comes up as all asterisks. Anyone ever done that before in an online game? Like, be honest, you can admit it. So I did that in RuneScape. And I remember I would say that. I'd have a friend, kind of a setup, and they'd say, hey, look, it works. And they would type all asterisks. And as you can imagine, what would happen is people, probably 10-year-olds like me, would type in their password, and then you could log into their account, and you could do an account takeover. You just took over an account doing a social engineering attack. Back then, it was just called scamming, right? There was no cool word for it to call it social engineering. But this was my introduction to the world of computers, and specifically how computers can be used for malicious purposes. Now, fast forward, I remember when I was about 14, 15, 16 years old, I wanted to learn more about like what hacking actually was like. Now, back then, this is about 2009, 2010, so I'm pretty young, but there wasn't really a big field of penetration testing or ethical hacking. It was just like hacking, and generally it was not a good thing. I came across a website called hackthisite.org. Has anyone ever heard of that before? It's still around. super old school, super outdated. If you pull it up right now, it looks like it's from like the 90s. Bad design, but it taught you how to hack stuff. It taught you really basic things such as SQL injection, taught you how to bypass certain things. So me and a friend, my friend's name is Nate, and we actually both work at Rhino as pen testers. We were obsessed with this. So we would pull all-nighters, learning how to hack stuff, and then go to school the next day. Now, as you can imagine, as high schoolers, we would learn from this website, here's how to bypass something. We go to school and we figure, well, the best playground to practice this on is our school, right? So once again, by a show of hands, how many of you guys got in trouble with computers in high school? Anyone? Or is it just me? Okay, I see a few hands at least honest enough to admit it. So don't do this, right? When you hack stuff, only do it with permissions. But I was a teenager. Teenagers do stupid things. And I have 2 young kids. I'm not looking forward to when they become teenagers. But teenagers do dumb things. So we'd go to school and we would practice what we learned. And it got to the point that we had 3 strikes against us. And the school actually sat us down with the superintendent and the school resource officer, out of all people, and told us, you are not allowed to touch computers for the next year. And they said, if you touch a computer, we are going to threaten you with criminal charges. So it got pretty intense. We didn't do anything nefarious. It was really just figuring out what could we bypass, what could we access on the school's network. Still a bad idea. So for an entire year, we weren't allowed to touch computers. Now, super awkward. I know when some of you were in high school, you had like a Chromebook, your own laptop, and you always had it with you. When I was in high school, if you had to work on a computer, you left your classroom, went to a computer lab, sort of like this, and that's where you did your computer work. So it was really awkward when our class did a PowerPoint, and my only option was like a ghetto poster board with marker on it. That's how I had to give my PowerPoint presentations, because I wasn't allowed to touch a computer. So that was my introduction. Like, hacking is interesting. It's kind of like this puzzle that you want to solve. But from my experience, it's not a good career, right? I got my computer rights taken away by learning about it, and I really didn't have an interest in going to jail or prison with computers. So I graduated high school, thankfully, and from there I went to Southeast Tech for business administration and spent the first 10 years of my career in the church world. So I was a pastor. So I went from being a pastor to hacking stuff, which I don't really know how that correlates, but the first 10 years of my career was in pastoral ministry, kind of preaching, teaching, leading people in that way. Something crazy happened. You guys may have heard of it, called the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm guessing you all went through it as well. Disrupted much of our lives. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the church that I was leading just shrunk to the point that I wasn't going to get paid. And churches already don't pay that much money. I kind of did IT stuff on the side to pay the bills, but I was the sole income provider. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. I have 2 young kids, and I read the writing on the wall. Like, I need to figure out a way to make money or we're going to be homeless, right? So make a decision. And I thought, well, I've always been interested in IT stuff, and I want to be a hacker. No idea how I'll ever get to that point, but I'm just going to jump back into IT. So I've only been full-time in IT for 3 years. So I just want to highlight that for you guys. I am not like super experienced in the world of IT. I spend my days Googling stuff and figuring things out, which you'll learn that is what IT is Googling. Now, ChatGPT is an amazing tool if you ever used him to write scripts for you and hack stuff. He says he can't hack stuff, but you can get him to do it for you. But I've only been in IT for 3 years. My first job was an IT support specialist, level 1, in 2020 at a little company called Interstates. You guys heard of Interstates? They're literally right by Southeast Tech. That was my first IT job. When I was working there, I got a text message from some dude named Eric Van Laken saying, hey, we have an opening at Southeast Tech for an IT support center manager position. Totally wasn't qualified to do it, but I was like, does it pay more? Yes. Okay, sweet. Then, yeah, I'm interested in the job. So I worked here at Southeast Tech for almost 2 years. Went from there to work for a bank called Alaska Federal Credit Union. Once again, it was a remote job, and it was on the blue team side of it doing cybersecurity type stuff. But my goal from the beginning is I wanted to be a pen tester. And then I was offered a job as a penetration tester, and that's where I am at today. So I hopped jobs quite a bit in the beginning of my career. I still feel like I'm in the beginning of my career, but that was my end goal. I wanted to hack stuff. I wanted to be a pen tester, and that is how I got to where I'm at today. A little bit of my day-to-day. So what does it look like on a day-to-day basis if you're a penetration tester, a professional hacker? The first thing is that it's remote, which I think is a huge thing to highlight. How many of you guys want a remote job? Work from home. It's incredible. Ken doesn't want one. I love it. This is my first remote job, but my commute, even on snowy days, consists of this. I wake up, I throw on pajama pants because on camera, no one can see what you're wearing, right? So this is one of the few times I wear jeans. Usually I throw on some pajama pants, a nice dress shirt, so I look like I'm presentable, and I commute down to my basement steps, and I hack stuff for the day, commute back up my basement steps. It's incredible. I have young kids, so like during my lunch break, I spend each lunch break hanging out with my kids. I can bring my daughter to school every day, pick her up from school every day, and just be a little more present to them. So my job is fully remote. I do not have to travel. The only thing we travel to is DEF CON, which you guys have all probably heard of DEF CON. I've never gone before. This will be my first year. That's our one travel requirement. Other than that, I'm fully remote, sit in my basement, hack stuff. Sometimes I wear a black hoodie so I feel more like a hacker. I don't have an anonymous mask, otherwise I would wear that as well. But it's fully remote. Now, what happens as a pen tester is each week, usually it's each week, I have a new engagement or a new assessment. Most engagements or assessments are 5 days. And what that looks like is I spend the first 4 days doing everything I can to hack this company. My main thing is web applications, so websites. So I'll spend 4 days really in the technical weeds, seeing what can I exploit, what kind of data can I steal, how could I possibly deface this website if I was targeting it, how can I think like a malicious actor and take this website down. And on the 5th day, I write a report. And the report details, here's the exact vulnerabilities I found in your environment. Here are steps on how you can do it yourself so you can kind of test this. And here's some suggested ways to remediate it. A big thing that I want to highlight is rules of engagement. Now, this comes from military language, so if any of you serve in the military, you'll know this better than I do. But rules of engagement are the rules that you can engage the enemy. You do not go outside of the rules of engagement in the military because people are going to die. You don't go outside the rules of engagement in hacking because, well, you're going to get fired, right? It's important. The rules of engagement are a document that you get when you begin a pen test that tells you, here's the scope, here's the exact website or IP addresses you can attack, here's what you can't do. So, for example, if it is a production environment, can anyone think of an attack you wouldn't want to do to a production environment? You probably learn about it here because you're prepping for Security Plus type stuff. Slow it down. Starts with a D. It's a specific attack. Yeah, so a DDoS is a distributed denial of service, so that's like a botnet attacking it. But you don't want to do that. But the thing that you can do yourself is a denial of service attack, which is often exploiting something maybe in the programming language, maybe the way the website functions to take it down. I'll give you one example. Amazon has an email system that sends emails on behalf of the user. Now, it's called Amazon SES, Simple Email Service. One denial of service attack that is unique, but is a real attack, is if you have an Amazon service that sends emails for you, and if your organization has a bounce rate of over 10%, Amazon will stop sending emails. So, okay, so how can you take down their email? Well, if a website allows you to send an email to anyone, which often they do, you can specify any email in the email parameter field, you can imagine you can script it out so that you're making them send emails to emails that do not exist, increasing their bounce rate. You just performed a denial of service attack on their email service. So it's thinking outside of the box. How would a malicious actor use this feature in the website to take them down? But that's one example, to know the rules of engagement. If it's a production system, you take down their website, you might be costing them quite literally thousands of dollars a minute. Their system is down. On the other hand, if it's a sandbox environment, do whatever you want, like break it, attack it. So paying attention to rules of engagement is important when you have a job as a pen tester, but even when you don't have a job as a pen tester, when you're learning how to hack stuff, you don't just go on a website and hack it, right? You don't just go on MyTech and figure out, like, how can I take down MyTech, right? Terrible idea, a good way to go to jail. Scope, rules of engagement are important. It's one of the main things that we tune into as pen testers to make sure what we're doing is not harmful to the client. My day consists of about 80-20 hacking as a good ratio. What I mean by that is 80% of my day is spent hands on keyboard, doing technical stuff, doing hacking. So if that appeals to you, pen testing might be a good fit. About 20% of my day is spent communication. So communicating with my team internally, a lot of communicating with clients, helping them understand different vulnerabilities, different ways to remediate those vulnerabilities. Before doing this, I was on the blue team side of it, which is the defense side, which is also good. But on the blue team side, it's more like the other way around. 80% of the time you spend in meetings with like people on the C-suite side who don't know much about technology. If you're good at communicating, it'd be a good fit for you. About 20% of the time you can do technical stuff. So just know that's kind of the different ratio. Blue team, A lot more meetings, red team or pen testing, a lot more hacking, which I think is fun. The other thing I do is research. I'm going to talk about this more when we get to kind of the career skills portion of this next. But a big thing about pen testing is continual research and continual learning. So like, if you really don't like school and you're really just waiting for the day that you graduate so you don't have to learn anymore, do not be a pen tester. If you pay attention to cybersecurity at all, it is constantly evolving. There's new vulnerabilities to learn about, new proof of concepts to understand, new ways to attack an environment. And as you can imagine, as a pen tester, what happens is I'm dropped into an environment each week. I know nothing about it right away. Usually it's a new technology I've never worked with, a new software I've never worked with. So you spend that time doing research, which means asking ChatGPT questions and Googling stuff and spending time on Reddit. But you spend a lot of time doing research so you understand what is going on. So every single week, it's like a class that you're digging into. I know at Southeast Tech, you do a lot of hands-on labs, especially with even Linux type stuff. But often it's like step-by-step, do this, do this, do this. As a pen tester, it's just like, here's a website, figure it out. Like figure out the underlying software, figure out how you can exploit it. And the other thing I do is content creation. I'll talk more about this as well. I have my sweet curl links to show you kind of some URLs I would recommend. One thing that I would recommend, and feel free to take a picture of this if you want to be cool and join me. How many of you guys have Discord? Is that still a thing? All right, cool. It's still a thing. Sweet. I started a Discord server. Actually, me and my friend Nate, who I said works at Rhino, we started this journey together. We both wanted to be pen testers. We had no idea how to get there, but we began meeting once a week. So we met like every Monday for an hour, and we just asked this question: what did you accomplish this past week? And what are your learning goals for this week? Just to hold one another accountable in our own growth. And that turned into this Discord server. Started with 2 of us. We have, I think, around 2,000 members now. But we still do that. Every single Monday, we have people quite literally from all over the world. There's usually 15 to 20 people. And we all meet on Discord and we answer those questions. What did you accomplish this past week? What are your learning goals for this upcoming week? We have pen testers on there, red team members on there, blue team people on there, students on there. It's a really good variety of IT people. We offer free mock interviews. So if you want a mock interview, we can have professionals do it completely free. Doesn't cost anything. Resume prep, completely free. Charge nothing. I have no interest in making money off of any of this stuff. So if you want to join our Discord, none of it's going to cost you any money. All free services from professionals in the field to teach you how to, I guess, hack stuff. My other thing is Hack Smarter. That's my sweet shirt that I'm repping. That's just my Twitch channel. So I stream on Twitch every Wednesday night from 8 p.m. to midnight, and I hack stuff. Obviously not real clients, but things like Try Hack Me, Hack the Box. I'll share more about that later. But I teach hands-on hacking just live on Twitch. You can ask questions. You can go through it with me. So if you guys need help sleeping tonight and you have nothing to do from 8 p.m. to midnight, hacksmarter.live. Come join me and we'll hang it on Twitch and hack stuff. From that, I have a YouTube channel as well, where once again, I just teach ethical hacking tutorials. Here's how to do like the top web attacks. Here's how to do Active Directory hacking. But it's not just theory. It's not like right now where I'm just presenting. We're actually working through it together, and I'm learning it live on the spot. So you can watch me yell at my computer, ask ChatGPT questions, and get frustrated. That's what I do on YouTube and Twitch. So a big part of pen testing is content creation. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be a public speaker. You don't have to get up in front of people like I'm doing right now and talk, but you do have to contribute, often through blogs, CVE research, a YouTube page, any type of content to give back to the InfoSec community is huge to get into the field and to stay in the field. All right, now here's what I want to talk about, and this is where I want to spend kind of the bulk of our time, is how do you do it? So I shared before, my issue was the only penetration testers I knew were like YouTube personalities, and they definitely didn't live in South Dakota, right? They lived like in California or New York or these huge cities. There wasn't a pen tester in Garrettson, South Dakota of 1,000 people hacking stuff. It just like, I never met them, didn't know anyone, didn't know who to talk to, didn't know who to ask my questions to. And so this is what I wanted. Like, how do I actually move into the field as a penetration tester, and how the heck do you do it soon? So when I got into it, I figured like, after being in IT for 10 years, I might have the experience to be a pen tester. And I got to it in 3 years. And if I can do it, y'all, I promise you, you guys can do it. You're at Southeast Tech doing an actual degree in the program. If I can do it, y'all can figure it out as well. I have kind of a pyramid here. And I'm hesitant to use the word pyramid because I always think of a pyramid scheme, all right? So not a pyramid scheme. You don't have to pay me any money. All of this is free of charge. But I want you to picture a pyramid. So we have like a bottom layer, a middle layer, and the top layer. So the bottom layer is what I'm calling the foundation. So the first thing, which you should have covered as a student at Southeast Tech, is basic IT skills. So this is like your break, fix, support center, help desk type stuff. People call you, their computer's slow. What do you do? How do you clear cache in a browser? You know, very basic IT skills. Certification that goes well with this is the A+ certification. Does anyone have the A+? Bueller? No one? No takers? I got the A+ through a college I went to. I'll share about that a little bit later. But this is kind of the A+ certification. Y'all are going to have an associate's degree. You don't need the A+ certification. I would kind of ignore that one. But that covers kind of your basic IT skills, basic troubleshooting, basic things like that. The second skill is networking, which you also learn that here. I believe Merrill is the main networking guy, right? So he teaches you networking. Some certifications that go along well with this would be the Network Plus through CompTIA. Anyone ever heard of that? CCNA, right? Cisco. They cover similar things. The CCNA is probably more valuable, but it's Cisco specific, whereas the Network Plus is vendor neutral through CompTIA. Both are good certifications, but those are kind of test your knowledge. Once again, you have a degree through Southeast Tech. You probably don't need the Network Plus. Your associate's degree is better than that anyways. The third thing is Linux skills, which is Todd, right? That is a class I took. So even as a business student at Southeast Tech, I liked computers, so I did both semesters of the Linux course. So I know Todd does an excellent job. But if you are working as a penetration tester, much of your time is spent on the command line, specifically in the Linux, specifically Kali Linux. Anyone ever use Kali Linux? You guys use it in class? Yep. Okay, sweet. Awesome. So that's a lot of what we use. There's other OSs, like Parrot OS is another one, but Kali Linux is kind of the industry standard, and that's where I spend most of my day is in Kali Linux. So just understanding basic Linux skills. You don't need to be a Linux administrator. I'm not administrating Linux servers. Sometimes I'll hack them, but I don't have to like update or patch them, at least not in this job. But understanding the terminal and understanding basic things like that, which goes into scripting skills. I also know you're taught that at Southeast Tech. You're taught how to script in Bash and some other languages. Do you guys learn Python here at all? I don't know if you do.
We don't. We kind of talked about implementing it, but just have not been able to find a place in the schedules and whatnot to do it.
Sure.
Plus finding somebody to teach it.
Yeah. That's a tough thing. Well, that's what I would encourage you guys. Bash is huge. If you want to be a pen tester, Python is huge. It's like the #1 language that you can learn for scripting and writing programs. As a pen tester, you don't need to be a programmer. I'm terrible at programming. Like, I don't know how many times I've tried to learn real programming, got really mad at it, stopped, tried, got really mad at it, stopped, tried. But I can do some scripting, which is important as a pen tester. If you can program, you'll be a way better pen tester than I am. I can't program. But Python and Bash are kind of the biggest languages you're going to learn, Python in particular. The reason for that is if you work with Metasploit, which I think you guys use Metasploit in this class a little bit. So often in Metasploit or other exploits that you find, they're written in Python, and you have to modify them a little bit. So once again, you don't need to know how to be a programmer, but you do need to know how to read a programming language, understand the flow, what's going on, and modify it some. So maybe you need to change an IP address or change some logic. ChatGPT helps you with a lot of that now that that's come out. ChatGPT can be your scripting buddy, but basic scripting skills. So once again, not programming, but just basic scripting, automate some things and do some special attacks in that way. And then finally, general security, which is what you're doing here. This class, now, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong. I only know this secondhand through students. To pass this class, you have two choices. You can take the final exam or you can take the Security Plus. Is that correct? Or no?
Taking the Security Plus is a course bonus for this class.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. Sweet. But this class kind of preps for Security Plus, right?
Preparation class for it. They go out there and take the Security Plus. If they pass it, automatic 10% bonus applied to their final grade for the class.
That's awesome. So I'm curious, how many students even do that?
Usually have at least 2 to 3 students every semester, every year.
Okay.
They'll actually pass it.
Very cool. How many of you are going to try it? I want to see every hand up. Try it, right? Security Plus is an incredible certification. The reason for that, it's certified by the Department of Defense. So any like government jobs, they often require something like the Security Plus, or they say if you get a job, you need the Security Plus within 6 months. The reason I say do it now is like you're spending the entire semester studying concepts from the Security Plus. Take the exam as soon as this is over. I passed the Security Plus about 2 years ago, and it's really good knowledge and really good general security, help you understand when you're talking to someone from cybersecurity, you don't feel completely lost. You understand some of the terminology that they're using. In an interview, You'll be able to nail the interview a lot better with that strong Security Plus background. And taking a class or taking a cert such as Security Plus will just prep you for future certifications. You'll learn how CompTIA hates you, and they word questions in such a way to trick you. So you have to slow down, read the question slowly. Even if you fail it, it's an incredible experience to feel what it's like to take like an industry level certification. So if you did not put your hand up, I expect y'all to take it and pass it. We're gonna have more than 2 to 3 students that pass it.
Cisco actually just started up their own security certification courses now.
Did they? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, actually this month they started seeding people for their new certifications, their CIST or something like that.
That's awesome. And that might even like bypass Security Plus in the future just because it's Cisco.
Yep, our counterpart down at CTE Academy, he actually met with us here a couple weeks ago, and he actually discovered this. He wants to teach more security down there.
So cool.
So,
man, that's
we
neat.
looked at some of the topics side by side, and they actually matched up pretty well. So,
Yeah, that's neat. I'll have to research that.
Just got some more information this morning. They're going to be piling on a lot more coming up here in the next
Yeah.
few months.
Man,
Cisco's really getting into security now.
I'll check that out. I mean, everybody seems to be into security. It's like the bandwagon to jump on, but Cisco's a solid name to learn stuff from. That is awesome. All right, we have our foundation, right? Our middle section of my sweet pyramid scheme we're sharing here is what I'm calling hacking basics. 3 things I want to talk about. One is reconnaissance. Once again, when it comes to pen testing, a lot of the words come from the world of the military. I think we all know what reconnaissance is. So if I am in the military and I'm performing reconnaissance on an enemy, I'm doing everything I can to understand the enemy, right? I'm looking at where they're camped out. I'm understanding what defenses they have in place. I'm understanding their patrols. I'm trying to figure out how can I get past them? How can I bypass them? How can I take them down? The same is true about pen testing. One of the first things you do with a company is reconnaissance, also known as OSINT. Anyone know what OSINT stands for? Bonus points. Yes, open source intelligence. Anyone know what that means? Like 1 minute or less. What is open source intelligence?
Going on social media sites, going on places that have free access, that it's posted online.
Yeah, it's huge, right? So you use OSINT. Often you're looking at like GitHub. Is there any like hard-coded secrets in their GitHub page that they forgot to take out of there? You're looking at security stuff. You're looking at LinkedIn. You're looking at social media. One of the things we do at Rhino, I haven't done it personally, but we also do physical pen testing, which literally is just breaking into buildings, right? And social engineering your way into building. OSINT's a huge part of that. You're setting up a pretext. You're understanding who the leaders are. You're dropping the right names as you go about it. But even when you're attacking a website or a network, OSINT's also huge. You're trying to look for, are there any credentials that have been breached? We have a lot of data breaches. And the thing is, a lot of people, especially non-IT people, even IT people, use the same password everywhere, right? So if their password was breached on LinkedIn, they're probably using the same password for their email. And if the organization doesn't have multi-factor authentication, you just got an in into the organization. If they do have multi-factor authentication, say, hey, this is so-and-so from the IT support department. We're just testing your account right now. You're going to get a prompt to your phone. Go ahead and just click accept. No problem, right? And you get access to their account anyway. So OSINT is all part of that. You're performing reconnaissance on the target because the more information you have about them, the more ways that you can take them down. Of course, in a legal way so that the real bad guys don't take them down. From that, and as part of it is scanning and enumeration. Let me just ask you guys, well, another quiz question. It's your first day as a pen tester, right? So we'll set up a scenario. You're given an IP address and you're supposed to take it down. You're supposed to hack it. What's the first step you do with that IP address? After you verify that it's in scope, right? So you're not breaking the law. What was that?
A reverse lookup?
That'd be part of it. That'd be helpful. Nmap, yeah, that's the first thing that we do is Nmap. I'm guessing you guys have learned how to use Nmap. Nmap is like the Swiss Army tool of all things in a network, and it's one of the main tools we use when we're scanning a network or an IP address. I don't need to probably tell you what Nmap does. The main thing it does, though, is it shows us what ports are open, and then you can run enumeration scripts through Nmap, so you can see like, all right, port 80 is open, which, okay, what's port 80? Anyone know? What's port 443? Okay, good. So you should have those common ports memorized. But you see a port that's open, you can do like an enumeration script on that port, and you can see here's a specific version of software that's running on that. So let's say we're looking at a web server, and it has an outdated version of Apache. Well, we can use that information, and we can look at like what are some exploits that are available in this outdated version of Apache. Is there any public exploits that we can use? Can we modify those exploits? And then can we then attack this web server using those exploits? Now, a big thing to pay attention to is if you perform a job as a pen tester or for a client, you can't just go to GitHub and copy and paste scripts, right? That's a good way to like destroy stuff. That's where reading programming is good. You don't need to write it, but you need to be able to read it to make sure it's not, destroying the customer's environment. But that's scanning enumeration. You're running InMap, you're running other scans to see what services are running, what ports are open, just like how we study an enemy. How do we get in? Do they have a web application firewall? Do they have a firewall stopping our scans? Do they have anything going on? And if so, how can we bypass it? Can we make it look like it's coming from a different port? That's one way to bypass some firewalls. Like, how can we bypass those things? So hacking basics is learning how to do scanning and enumeration. And then finally, I already talked about this a little bit, is exploitation. One big thing with this is the Metasploit framework. Open source framework built into Kali Linux has a bunch of public exploits available that you can target a lot of common vulnerabilities. Another part of exploitation is just researching, understanding how exploits work. It's easy to be a script kiddie, right? It's easy just to throw scripts at stuff and see what sticks. Not a good idea. So understanding how an exploit works, understanding how to modify an exploit, that's all in the hacking basics. And honestly, this is kind of where I feel like I'm at for the most part. I know a little bit of the advanced stuff I'm going to show you next. But once you have this stuff down, I think you're at a spot where you can land kind of a junior or associate pen testing job. You might need some experience ahead of time, but you'll at least, I think, do a decent job at the interview portion. Finally, the top of our pyramid scheme is what I'm calling beyond basics. The first thing is Active Directory pen testing. I know at Southeast Tech, y'all learned how to set up Active Directory, right? Or I remember right in one of the classes. But you're probably not taught how to hack Active Directory. Knowing how to set it up is important, because if you know how to set up Active Directory, you know what misconfigurations to look for to hack Active Directory. But almost every major organization, this is the backbone of their network, is Active Directory. A lot of what we do as pen testers is we get a VPN connection to like an internal environment, and we start out with like low-level user administration on their Active Directory environment, and they tell us, we want you to get to domain admin. We want you to take control of the network. Active Directory is really secure if it's implemented properly. Now, whenever you land your first IT job, maybe you already work in IT right now, the thing you'll notice is Active Directory in most environments is like this behemoth of outdated stuff that has not been cleaned, because to clean up the Active Directory environment that was started 10 years ago would take forever. So nobody wants to do it. So when you get to a customer's real Active Directory environment or your own real Active Directory environment, it's a mess. It's like when you look at a network closet and it's all spaghetti. That's basically Active Directory in most organizations. So it's secure if implemented properly. If it's not implemented properly, which usually it's not, you have a massive attack surface that you can take down, but only if you understand how to attack Active Directory. There's a lot of stuff online that you can use to learn that. A second thing, which I might even highlight this as the number one skill if you want to land your first job as a pen tester, is web application pen testing. So if you get into pen testing, your first job is likely going to be an associate or a junior pen tester. And more than likely, you're going to spend most of your time doing web applications, because there's less of a risk of you screwing stuff up when you hack a web application. And that's what I do. 99% of the time, I'm doing web applications. I love them. A lot of people don't like them. I think they're a lot of fun. There's a lot of creative ways that you can take down a web application. But learning web application pen testing, in particular, a really cool tool called Burp Suite. Anyone ever heard of Burp Suite before? No hands? Okay. Learn Burp Suite. Like, if I can leave you with anything, if you want to be a pen tester, learn Burp Suite. Beyond Kali Linux, like, it's more important than Kali, more important than Metasploit. If you want to be a pen tester, so now with web apps, is learn Burp Suite. Burp Suite is the industry standard for hacking web applications. It comes for free on Kali. It's Burp Suite Community Edition, and there's also Professional Edition. But here's how Burp Suite functions. It functions as a proxy. So if my computer's right here, and I'm connecting to a website over there, we'll say that this is a web server. We'll just call this Facebook. All right, we're going to take down Facebook. Don't do that. Well, you can try. You probably won't be able to. But if that's Facebook, this would be Burp Suite, which means when I send a request to Facebook, Burp Suite grabs that request as kind of a man in the middle, and then I can modify different parameters. So I can modify a variable. I can modify it from a GET to a POST request. I can see, does that return any interesting error messages that I can use to figure out what's the underlying software of the website? So Burp Suite is kind of the Swiss Army knife when it comes to web app pen testing. When you get the professional edition, you can brute force with Burp Suite. It'll actually do automatic scanning of websites to tell you common vulnerabilities on that website that you can exploit further. But that is what web app pen testers use almost all day. I spend a lot of my day between Kali Linux and the Burp Suite, modifying requests, seeing what interesting error messages I can trigger, because it captures that request and then I can repeat it and test the different requests, test authentication in that way. So, good application for every single person in this room. If you want to be a pen tester, go home today and learn about Burp Suite. They have a whole website called Portswigger Academy that's completely free of charge for you to use, and they teach you hands-on how to go from a nobody, knowing nothing, to how to hack websites. So you can take down any website Merrill puts up.
Or go buy a pen, write with it, see if it works, and then your
It's a good dad joke.
I stopped by to Buck Jeffy, and his class was going on, because he always walks through ours.
Yeah.
This student goes, "What do you teach?" I go, "Jeff, you want to hear something funny?" And he goes, "What?" I go, "Ask that again." He goes, "What do you teach, Jeff?" Goes, "No."
How to make
At least
Ethernet
that's
cords.
consistent.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Learn how to hack stuff.
You got a saw? Bring your saw.
I do have one.
Socks and pens.
Good luck with your hacking.
Appreciate it.
Meryl's teaching subnetting, so if you want to get a lecture about
Yeah,
subnetting.
you want to
Nope.
teach subnetting?
Nope, not at all. Chat GPT will do something for you.
Oh, there you go.
ChatGPT will do everything.
I know. It's incredible. Oh, man. All right. Learn Burp Suite. I think I emphasized it enough. You want to learn Burp Suite if you want to hack stuff. On top of that, there's something called bug bounties. Anyone have heard of those? A few people. All right. Like, you can start hacking today without breaking the law. So an organization called HackerOne, there's other organizations. HackerOne's the biggest one. Big companies have bug bounty programs. Facebook has one, which means if you find a bug in Facebook or a way to have command execution in Facebook, they're going to pay you $100, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. Some people make a living doing full-time bug bounty work using Burp Suite, because Burp Suite's the standard tool for that. But you can start doing bug bounties today and getting hands-on experience hacking websites, once again, without breaking the law. And if you're good at it, you make some money, and maybe you can pay back your student loans with bug bounties. Web applications are important. The other thing is wireless pen testing. We don't do a whole lot of this, but it's a really easy thing to learn. A lot of good resources online. All the networking classes you already take at Southeast Tech, you'd be able to pick this up pretty quick. Standard tools like Aircrack NG, which is on Kali Linux. You can learn more about that to do some basic wireless pen testing. And then finally,
Our wireless class actually has a bonus lab where they can use that to try to crack.
Oh, sweet.
Point set with web.
that's beautiful.
And most people can get in about 20 minutes, guys.
Yeah, it's so much easier than we think. And it's a good thing to talk about, like in a resume, that you have this experience and you did it hands-on, right? It's not just, I watched a YouTube video. Like, you actually hacked it. You did it hands-on, you set it up, and you took it down. That's awesome. That's so cool. Certification side of it, just 2. There's so many certifications that you can get, but 2 that I would encourage you to focus on. 1 is Security Plus. So I already talked about this. By a show of hands, how many are going to attempt the Security Plus when you're done with this class? Every hand should be up. If you didn't put your hand up, I'm mad at you. Security Plus, and then OSCP. Anyone ever heard of the OSCP? This is the gold standard when it comes to penetration testing. OSCP is created by Offensive Security, who are the ones who created Kali Linux. The OSCP stands for Offensive Security Certified Professional. I got this back in December. Thankfully, I passed it on my first attempt, but it has a high failure rate. So if you fail it, don't feel bad. A lot of people fail it. But here is what it is. There's no multiple choice questions. It's all hands-on hacking. So to pass the OSCP, here's how it was set up, at least for me when I took it in December. I get a VPN connection, and I'm dropped into an environment I know nothing about. You have 3 standalone machines, so you get 3 IP addresses. You know nothing about these machines. You don't know if they're Linux. You don't know if they're Windows. You have to go from having no access to getting initial access as a low-level user, and then becoming root or administrator, depending on if it's Windows and Linux. On these 3 standalone machines, once again, 24 hours, while being proctored, while someone watches you on your webcam to make sure you're not cheating. Not only that, you also have an Active Directory network. All part of that 24 hours with a web server, a workstation, and then you have to get to domain admin. Once again, you have to go from no access to compromising the web server, taking that over, and then using that to pivot into the internal network and become domain admin of the network. 24 hours, hack stuff. Open book, Google, whatever you want to use. I think they just banned ChatGPT, of course, but everything else. So it feels like a real penetration test, although as a real pen test, we have way more than 24 hours. So it's super stressful. You get 24 hours to hack those machines. Once again, nothing's multiple choice, all hands-on, Kali Linux, hands-on keyboard. That's the only way you can pass this exam. After you've passed the technical part, you have another 24 hours to write a professional pen testing report where you document every machine, every vulnerability that you found, how you exploited the machine, and then any exploits that you use or modified in order to take down the machine. It's intense. When I first heard about it, I thought there's no possible way I'm ever going to get to that point. But once again, y'all, if I can pass it, you guys can pass it. Shameless plug for my YouTube channel. I made a video on how I passed the OSCP in 8 hours on my first attempt. I shared the exact resources I used for studying. But if you can earn the OSCP, you will get a pen testing job. As long as you're not terrible at interviews, right? But that will get you to the interview part. That is the gold standard in the world of penetration testing, showing that you know not just theory, like you can actually be dropped into an environment and take the environment down. If I can do it, y'all can do it. Technical skills. I should just pause right there. Any questions? I'll do kind of questions at the end, but any questions about technical stuff that I shared or anything you guys would add? I've only been doing this for 30 years, so like I still don't know what I'm talking about most of the time, so I might be missing something obvious. I'm going to take your silence as I'm doing an incredible job. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. The last thing I want to talk about is just soft skills. And in some ways, soft skills are more important than technical skills. If you get hired somewhere, they can teach you how to be technical. They cannot teach you how to not be a jerk, right? Or how to communicate better. So, number one on my soft skills, don't be a jerk, right? Sounds pretty obvious, but I think IT people in particular, like you guys are smart. You're smarter than most people. That's why you're in an IT program. The temptation of smart people is you tend to speak over others, you tend to use big jargon, and you can come off as arrogant. I think this is especially true as you're beginning your career, because as you begin your career, even as you go through your career, for your entire career, honestly, you're probably going to wrestle with what's called imposter syndrome, where you feel like an imposter. You feel like everybody around you is smarter than you. You feel like you don't know what you're talking about much of the time. And as a result, you tend to overcompensate. And what that means is when someone asks you a question you don't know about, you just kind of ramble on and you don't get anywhere, but you don't want to say, I don't know, because that's an attack on your ego, which makes you come off, once again, as a jerk. So the best thing I can give you guys as a soft skill is don't be a jerk and learn humility. And humility is just admitting, like, I don't know. I still have a lot to learn. Like I was telling you guys, I haven't been doing this very long either. I'm sure I'm missing major stuff. Someone might watch this and tell me like how terrible of a job I did, but that's okay, right? As long as I'm not a jerk while I'm doing it, I think that's a win right there. So don't be a jerk. Learn how to talk to people without coming off as arrogant or using big jargon so you sound smart. The second one is communication. If you want to be a pen tester or IT in general, communication is huge. Now, I remember when I was a teenager learning about hacking, my view of what it would be to be a professional hacker is like a guy, always a guy, is how I pictured in my head, but ladies make incredible penetration testers as well. There's actually really good content creation by ladies doing pen testing that I've learned a lot from. But I always pictured a guy in my head because we make stereotypes. So I pictured a guy in a black hoodie wearing like an anonymous mask, just taking down government websites, right? You don't have to talk to anyone. That's just what you do. You hack stuff and you're golden. Now, when I got a real pen testing job, you can do that, I guess, if you want to be weird, because you're at home, so you can dress however you want to dress. If you want to wear a mask, more power to you. But a lot of it is communication. It's communicating to your team internally, but it's also communicating to clients and doing public speaking and written communication. I said we end every pen test with a report. That's often like a 30-page report that I write every single week saying, here's how I hacked you, here's how you can repeat it, and you have to use good grammar. ChatGPT cannot write the report for you. This I don't think it can. I haven't tried using ChatGPT for that purpose yet. But good written communication, but good verbal communication. At the end of a pen test, what you often do with the client is what's called a debrief. You'll do often a voice call with the client, maybe over Zoom. You'll share your screen so they can see the report, and you walk the client through the report step by step, and you answer any questions they have about different vulnerabilities or things you exploited, which means you need to be able to think on your feet, and you need to be able to talk to people. I know sometimes we get into IT because we don't want to talk to people. If you want to be a pen tester, IT in general, you have to get over that. You have to learn how to talk and present yourself. You don't have to get in front of the class and talk, but you do have to be comfortable doing some level of public speaking. Yeah.
Our advisory board, that is the number one thing they hit on our students on every year is that communication, those soft skills. And they said just what you said. We can teach you the technical stuff. You have to know how to talk. You have to know how to write documents, stuff like that.
It's key, right? And it's like, we state that over and over again until you get into it and you realize just how important that is. Like, once again, you can learn the technical side of it. The communications, an employer can't teach you how to communicate. Like, they're not going to send you to communication classes. They're just not going to hire you, is how that's going to work if you're not able to communicate, and they'll pick that up in the interview. The third thing, which kind of goes with that, is start contributing now. So I shared with you guys my YouTube channel, my Discord. I started that when I was an IT support specialist, level 1 at Interstates. I started teaching cybersecurity when I had literally no idea what I was doing. But what I did is I would just record myself on Twitch while I was learning stuff. So I did not say, like, I'm going to teach you. I said, we're going to learn this together. I'm going to stumble through it. Help me learn. And that's how I started creating content. But what that did is it created a digital portfolio for when I did a resume. I could tell an employer, like, look, I may not be at the experience level I need to be at, but like, here's 100 videos that show you I can pick it up. I can learn what I'm doing. And this is actually what helped me landed my job at Rhino. So at Rhino, it was a 3-step interview process. The first interview was a technical interview, which I passed. So I figured, look, I'm going to do good. I can talk to people. Like, I think I'll pass the next part. The second interview was actually with the founder and CEO, which is a little bit intimidating. And during that interview, I thought I did okay, but I got an email 2 hours later. All right. When you get an email 2 hours after your interview, probably not a good sign, right? I got an email 2 hours later saying, hey, appreciate your time, but you're not at the experience level we are looking for a pen tester. I'm like, duh, like, I've never done pen testing. I don't know how it's that whole entry level thing. Like, how do you get pen testing experience without being a pen tester? But they said this, they said, you have some qualities that we like, and we'd like to talk to you in 10 days. Like, here are some resources to study up on. Let's just touch base in 10 days, see where you're at, and maybe have a conversation about hiring you in the future. So I thought, all right, I have 10 days to show them, like, yes, I don't know what I'm doing, but I can figure it out. So in that 10-day period, I took an application called Juice Shop. Anyone ever heard of that? It's an intentionally vulnerable web application you can spin up in a virtual machine. So I took this Juice Shop application, I hacked it, and I wrote a pen test report. Here's how I took down the Juice Shop application. I had never used really Burp Suite up until that time. So I told you guys to learn Burp Suite. I didn't know it myself. So I went on Portswigger Academy that teaches you how to use Burp Suite, did the first 10 modules and documented step-by-step how to do the top web application attacks, did a bunch of labs, documented the labs. I did another technical assessment I found on Try Hack Me, which is another good resource for like vulnerable VMs. Took that down and documented what I did. Got to that 10-day process and just told them, like, look, guys, I know I have no pen testing experience. I know, like, I haven't been in IT that long. Here's what I've done in the past 10 days. If you give me a chance, I can figure this thing out. I can learn, and I got the job. So I went from a no to landing a job. A big part of it was contributing. I was releasing material as I was doing that. And now my job pays me at times to stream on Twitch, which is sweet. Like, I get paid to hang out on Twitch and hack stuff, all because I started contributing before I really felt like I belonged. So I would encourage you right now, contribute. If you're comfortable speaking, do YouTube, do Twitch, start a GitHub, start contributing on LinkedIn, whatever it is, to start giving back to the InfoSec community. You have something to add. Once again, if I can add value, you guys can add value as well. Fourth thing is a hunger for growth. If you want a job where you can just drift, let's just be real, some IT jobs are that way, right? You can land a job in a big organization and you can stay there the rest of your career, and you don't really have to do a whole lot because a lot of things are automated for you. So you can just like play Call of Duty on the side if you're working from home and have your computer running and move your mouse, every 5 minutes. If you want to do that, awesome. Like, more power to you, but don't become a pen tester. As a pen tester, there is very little downtime for those things outside of research because a client is paying Ryan owe a bunch of money for me to take down their web application. So I need to be focused on what I'm doing. In addition to that, that hunger for growth means you are always learning, always looking at more certifications, always taking more classes. Your learning does not end because you have an associate's degree. That's like the very beginning of your learning journey. So if you want to be done when you're done at Southeast Tech, don't be a pen tester. You cannot drift as a pen tester. You will get found out. You either won't get hired or you'll lose your job because you'll get so far behind. It is a grind to keep on learning. But that goes down to what I want to talk about is mental health. And here's kind of a note I'll end on, maybe the most important note of this whole thing. The downside of a career that's all about being hungry for growth and continually learning, continually researching, it's really easy to burn yourself out. Some of you may have a family, you may have a wife, a husband, kids, whatever it is, you might have a family. The temptation when you're pursuing a career like this is to sacrifice your family on this altar of success and career, where you don't spend any time with your family, you spend all your time on your computer learning, and you justify it by saying, well, I'm providing for my family. The one thing I would encourage you guys with as you start your career, if you succeed in your career, but you fail at the things in life that matter the most, you have not succeeded. I think there's a reason that when you study IT professionals, many IT professionals are alcoholics. I often joke about it, about the stress of being in IT, but the reason for that is many IT people self-medicate with alcohol, other drugs, Netflix, gaming. We all have different ways that we self-medicate, and the reason for that is we do not focus on mental health or emotional wellness. So the thing I would encourage you guys with is therapy is good. I've spent a lot of time myself in professional therapy, especially when I transitioned out of the church world, honestly, pretty mad at people, going into IT, and even just processing things in IT. I've spent a lot of time in therapy focusing on my own mental health so that if I succeed in a career, I don't fail in my role as a dad or fail in my role as a husband. At the end of the day, y'all, your job can replace you, right? I changed jobs quite a bit to get to my pen testing role. And guess what? I'm back here. I still have good relationships with every job that I've had. They can replace you the next day. You quit, there'll be a job posting online. Your family can't replace you that easily. And you cannot replace your mental and emotional health that easily. So when it comes down to it, as you're grinding, learning how to grow and contributing in community and learning how not to be a jerk, with mental health kind of goes with that, how to not be a jerk. Do not lose value of the importance of mental health, emotional wellness. I don't just say that because that's a thing to say. I say that from my own journey. If I did not focus on that, I would not be where I'm at today, or my family would hate me. One of the two would happen. That's what I got for you guys. That is my entire presentation. So how I got into pen testing, what it's like on a day-to-day basis to be a pen tester, and then both the technical skills and soft skills on how to succeed, not just in pen testing, but in IT in general.